I haven't quite yet made up my mind about Gerald McBoing-Boing. I will say, the title, I absolutely love. This actually won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Feature in 1950, and to be honest, I don't really agree with that. One of the other nominees in the category was Jerry's Cousin, which is an animation, a Tom and Jerry animation that I think is pretty brilliant. But this one, I kind of thought it was alright, but not amazing. It was released in 1950, and it was adapted from a story by Dr. Seuss, directed by Robert Cannon with supervising director John Hubley. And I have to say, I hadn't heard of this story, I wasn't aware of the character. The premise is pretty interesting, but I just feel like there's nothing about it that I thought was particularly captivating. It's about this young boy called Gerald, who learns to talk, but unfortunately, he only learns to talk through sound effects. So he does, car horn beeps and alarm noises every time he opens his mouth. There are no words. It is just a sound effect. And of course, this is causing problems at home. It's causing problems at school. Will he ever learn to speak, or will he ever find a use for this voice? What happens is pretty interesting. I'm not going to say the outcome, because I don't want to spoil it. Obviously, I don't know if it's the same as what happens in the original story by Dr. Seuss, but I think that the treatment of the character towards the end and what happened to him was actually quite surprising and not what I expected, and it's got a really good message about using your unique qualities in any way that you can. I'm not really sure what message it was trying to get across. Dr. Seuss's stories tend to have a message of some kind, but ultimately they're usually just silly fun aimed at children. Entertainment, engaging, usually quite rhythmic and fun to read out loud. This is told in rhyme. The narrative for this, it's narrated by Marvin Miller, and the narration is beautiful. Very easy to listen to, beautiful rhymes, quite pleasing on the ears. And I have to say the sound effects are really brilliant, and they really are very good. I think the only things that kind of let this down are, for me personally, the narrative kind of in the middle. Something happens in the middle that I didn't really care for, I didn't find it that interesting. And also the animation style is not bad, but for me personally, it's not the kind of animation style that I enjoy. It looks a bit too hand-drawn, which for 1950 is definitely a stylistic choice rather than a necessity, and I would have preferred something a little bit sharper for the time. I enjoyed it. It was good. Gerald McBoing-Boing is a lot of fun and definitely worth watching. I just personally think that there were better contenders for the award that year. Nevertheless, if you like animation, if this sounds like your kind of thing, if you're a fan of Dr. Seuss, I would say Gerald McBoing-Boing is worth watching. I think it went on to have a TV series eventually. It's quite popular and well known, even though I hadn't heard of it. It's one that I'm pretty happy to recommend.